Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is going to be a stream of consciousness regarding the Modern Warfare beta. It's been close to a week since the beta happened and I jumped in on it, and what I wanted to do, guys, is I wanted to go through essentially a list of grievances that I'm hoping can see some kind of addressment, which is probably not a word, but I'm hoping that they can be addressed, or at least tweaked in some ways to make Modern Warfare a game that will be more tailored to a player like myself and my playstyle will enjoy. I didn't want to do this immediately after the beta because I wanted to kind of stew and ferment and get my mind around everything and make sure that when I did finally do this commentary that it wasn't just going to be a gut-wrench reaction. I wanted to assess and overview my feelings later on once I'd calmed down and once the once the romanticism and the hypnosis of playing the game and getting contact with it had kind of faded. So that's why this video has been a little bit later than you might have expected. But sit down, make yourself a drink, make yourself comfortable. We're going to be here a while. If you're not the biggest fan of somebody talking about problems with video games and critiquing certain aspects of game design, then you're probably not going to listen or enjoy this video. So thank you for being here, but Godspeed. And I say this is a stream of consciousness because it really is. I've got a list in front of me of bullet points that I threw down in a session of after playing, and then later on after watching some other people play to see the kind of things that I'd maybe forgotten and the things that I'd not quite noticed myself or did notice but didn't put words to it. And these are in no real order. They're just kind of all over the place. We're going to be jumping around topics, jumping around discussions, and there are a couple of huge problems with this beta that I'm going to try my best not to talk too much about because I feel like those problems are known to most people and everyone was having the same issues, and I'm hoping the Infinity Ward can address this. But the first one on my list is the matchmaking and the party chat. So if you played the beta, I put 12 hours into the beta, give or take. I was on the open PC beta, the crossplay days of Friday and Saturday. Those are the 2 days I played. I got about 6 hours on each day. A lot of that was spent in the menu because the matchmaking wasn't very good. So, a praise first. The matchmaking between console and PC and PlayStation and Xbox seemed pretty cool. Some games we had a lot of PC people, some games we had a lot of Xbox, well I say a lot of Xbox, I think we came across 3 or 4 Xbox people, wasn't quite as many of those that I noticed, but there was a lot of PS4. Lots and lots of PS4, and a decent mix as well, so it was enabling to showcase the cross-platforming in a lot of ways, which I did appreciate, but the matchmaking for me was kind of all over the place, and the main issue that I felt here that was a wildly known bug with it, everybody knew this. There was an issue with coming out of a game and then the game perpetually matchmaking and never finding a match. And what you had to do, especially if you were partied up, you had to back away, get everybody out of your party, and then everybody had to rejoin and then do the next game. And what would happen is, when you searched as the party leader for a match, if it didn't display looking for a match in under a certain amount of milliseconds of ping, you weren't looking for a game. You were idly looking, but the game wasn't doing anything. And this led to probably hours of waiting and tedium and just frustration as a whole. And this is something that has to be addressed in the main game, because if it isn't, the game will be a fundamental failure because you'll play as a party and you'll spend more time in the menu. I don't know how this makes it into a beta when this is like the 20th Call of Duty that they've made. I have no idea how you fuck this up, but they did it spectacularly, and I really, really hope we can just see this fixed. It seems so simple to me. COD 4 did it perfectly, and I don't know why we messed it up. But the party chat was also something that is direly needed too. So the voices in-game have got a stylistic radio filter on them to make them sound more like you're in Iraq with your buddies or some such nonsense. So no matter if you're using like a $1,000 microphone, you sound like dog shit. And everyone sounds like dog shit. The whole game sounds like you're talking to people over fucking MySpace using like walkie-talkies. It's really strange, and it's a stylistic choice that they've put on it because that's not how it should be. And there was no way to party up when you were playing crossplay from what I noticed. So if people couldn't get access to Discord, where you can use a TeamSpeak that's actually pretty good and free, you had to use the game. And the game afforded no party chat, seemingly. So every game you got put into random lobbies full of every different nationality, everyone throwing out racial slurs, everybody swearing, everybody just like hating each other, and then you had to mute a bunch of people, and it was the same song and dance every time. And I don't mind it that much, because I came from a day back in Gears 1 and like Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter, or it's called GRA 1 and stuff, GRA 2, where those lobbies were the perfect breeding ground for shit talking, and all you did was argue with each other and shout at each other and say the most horrendous things to insult people, and it was all part of the competitiveness of it. That's going away now. We've got to a culture where everybody wants nobody to swear, nobody to do any slurs or anything ridiculous. You can't have these arguments, these territorial pissing contests, this tribalistic competitiveness. They want that gone. You can actually get communication bans. I got communicated banned on Battlefront 2 for calling somebody a bitch. As you can see, not quite as bad as some of the things I could have said or have been said to me. But party chat would alleviate this, and I'm hoping the main game can afford it, because it just makes it so much easier. There's nothing worse than not being able to talk to somebody and say something important because two guys are having a very heated conversation in German. I don't speak German. They were probably saying some cool shit, and I had no idea. It's just one of those things that happens in these games. And shout out as well, there was a bunch of nice people who could have been dicks and chose not to be. Like, I was being sarcastic at one point that I got a UAV, and I said, I got a UAV, I'm the best. And some guy, from another country, was very, very complimentary and said, good job to me. So whoever you are, sir, I approve. You didn't hear the sarcasm, but I still love you. Right, the next one was the maps. This is a very big topic, and I'm not going to talk much about it, because you either get it or you don't get it. I've put cluttered, no flow, uneven, too many sightlines. So I think this game has some of the worst maps in the history of Call of Duty. I really do. Over the course of playing the beta, I grew to understand Hackney Yard and Gunrunner a little bit more, and I came to appreciate them as the better maps in a bad bunch. However, you put those maps in Black Ops 2, they're the worst maps in the game. You put those maps in COD 4, they're the worst maps in the game for me. I do not like the design aesthetic that they've gone with for these maps. I just don't. I don't like it at all. I think visually they look quite interesting, and I think creatively they've got a lot going for them, but I do not think it's conducive to good Call of Duty gameplay or tactical gameplay, because everybody keeps throwing around a term tactical for how they're approaching this game. I didn't see many tactics when I played, guys. I saw people cowering because they were afraid to move, and that's not a tactic. That's the opposite of a tactic, in my opinion. That is somebody who has no clue, so they do nothing. It's option paralysis. And the maps just... There were so many times where something looked like a person, but it was furniture, and then you didn't see the person, and they killed you. There was a million head glitches. The maps just didn't seem to lead into the right places. There was so many sight lines. Almost every moment there's 6 possible vantage points that could be shooting you, so it doesn't really lead to confident movement or confident map flow of how you move around the map and control engagements. It didn't seem to allow good players to control spots in the way that previous CODs have. It seems like it was promoting chaos, and there's an appeal to that to some players. A lot of people like that it's not as easy to manage, but for me, I just don't think it really works in the way that I enjoy. So I'm really hoping the rest of the maps have perhaps got a bit more of a structured setting to them, and if not, I just hope none of them are like that Grozny raid, because that Grozny raid on 10v10, I've never had as little fun in Call of Duty as when I played that map, because I was always trying to be near B flag, and people just camped the windows at B flag, and if you went on the road you got sniped, if you went on the field you didn't see anybody, and then when you didn't expect anybody, 5 dudes popped out of every corner and shot you instantly. Like, that map looked so cool as like a single player map, or as some kind of strange hide and seek map, or some kind of, you know, performance piece or portfolio piece to show that you can make really, really cool and interesting looking landscapes. But as far as Call of Duty, it just didn't fucking work. It was just confusing the whole time, and I really didn't enjoy that. I'm not even going to talk about Azerbaijani Cave, because it's, you know why that map is dog shit. Worst thing in the beta by far. Really, really disliked it. But fundamentally, the things to take away here, guys, did you see on Azir Cave, when you start domination and you super sprint towards the A flag or to the flag when you start on the side that's not near the most open town area, you know, the other side where you have to go around the sticks and across the bridge. By the time you've got halfway to the flag and jumped over those sandbags, they're already capping it. There were maps where they started closer to the flags, and the worst one was Hackney Yard for me, because if you came from that one side towards B, you had two entrances to stare at that had a much more powerful position to point at you and no cover in the middle, except for that left-hand side area that was weird, and that cargo crate on the right, whereas on the other side, there was way more stuff for you to use to move like intelligently through that area. It felt like just a kill box, and I used it a lot to get a lot of easy kills because it was just, you ran for it and it didn't feel like it had any kind of design. It was just, here's a fucking death field that one person that gets this spawn is going to have to navigate, and I really didn't appreciate that too much. So the next one I put is the doors. The doors were just insane to me. I don't know how we can be 20 CODs into the cycle and opening a door is now a fucking feature. How the hell is opening a door a fucking feature? And admittedly, I've seen some cool plays where people peek a door open, throw a stun in, and then go in and clear a room. That kind of stuff is great, but it doesn't belong in COD. It belongs in Rainbow fucking Six. It belongs in other games. COD has never been about intelligently opening fucking doors, and it shouldn't be about it now. This is me being absolutely reticent to a change that no one wanted. If you want this type of stuff, go play SWAT. Go play fucking Rainbow Six before it became Siege. Go play those old games where you planned an entire fucking map before you even went in and your team breached and cleared. Play those games. They're great games. We don't need it in everything. You know, we don't have to be a master of none and a jack of every fucking else. I don't want that. So for me, the doors were just stupid. But that isn't the worst part about them. The worst part about the doors is if you sprinted near a door, you would whack it and it would make the loudest noise, and there were times when you would run through a door, smack it open, and as you passed it, smack it closed. So you'd bang this fucking door twice, make so much bloody noise, and then the amount of times you'd turn around thinking it was an enemy behind you, but it wasn't, it was you. And there was times when you were nowhere near the doors and it still did this. And apparently, judging by the Reddit threads, they do say that the doors were bugged, and it's obvious because they were fucking horrendous. They did not add anything to the game, and I went on to say this was the scariest horror game I've ever played, because I've never jumped in a game as many times as I did from those fucking doors. It was so retarded, and it really needs to be fixed. So, please fix the doors. I'd remove them because they add fucking nothing, but I know a lot of people are looking forward to like crouch walking around and opening doors and shooting through them and shit. Not a fan personally at all. So the next point I've got says ADS, sprint out times, and punishing mobility. You do not have to listen to me to know that this was one of the more difficult COD games to move in, because so many people decided not to do so. This was a game about power positions, this was a game about pre-aiming, this was a game about if you were in ADS and they weren't, you won the gunfight outside of the horrible servers. So, ADSing in this game is incredibly slow. Even with attachments to make it faster, it's still incredibly slow, and it puts you at a massive disadvantage in most gunfights. The sprint out times are also very slow, so if you're somebody that likes to run around the rooms, run around the corners, run around the map, the time it takes you to get your gun up and ready to fire is the time it takes you to die. And there are a bunch of attachments that might be able to help this, but it's still slower than it was in the other CODs, and historically, the CODs where the ADS time and the sprint out times were the fastest were the most fun. The ones that didn't have that were the most campiest. The ones where the path through the level were the slowest, the ones where players didn't move as much. And that is why this is happening. The reason why mobility is so frowned upon at the moment is because it was punished at almost every single opportunity. You did not have the same advantage as somebody pre-aiming or somebody already camping up somewhere in a good position. You did not have the same advantage as somebody waiting on you than you did trying to react. And then when you combine this with maps that are cluttered and filled with tons of head glitches, all you're doing is running around trying to find a forehead to kill you. That's what you're doing. Mobility should never ever be punished, it should always be rewarded, but it should be rewarded when it's intelligent. Nobody wants somebody who runs around like a psychopath to be rewarded unless they're really good at the game when it comes to gun skill. If you run around with no plan, and no thought, and no strategy, you should lose to a player who's using those things. That's how the rhythm of the game should be. However, if you're moving around a map with purpose, and you know exactly what you're trying to do and what to expect, and you have experience driving those decisions that you're making, even though they're very quick, then you should be able to do well. And in this game, it was hard. It was very hard. I know a lot of people who are all usually monsters in Call of Duty that had a tough time with this, myself included, even though I haven't played COD for a very long time, and I wouldn't use that as an excuse, because COD really doesn't change. Although it changes a lot, which is a topic for another discussion. So, the next point I put is movement in a slow game and mantling is trash. So, I find it really ironic that this game has a super sprint when it's the slowest Call of Duty I've ever played, and I played Ghosts. And everybody likes to shit on Ghosts because it was a very slow and campy COD, but if you played Strike Zone, it could be a really fast map. There were a couple of maps in that. I think one of them was Octane or Mirage. It was a sandy level. That could be quite a fast map. There was the Warhawk one that could be quite fast if you got with the right people. It can be really easy to blame a game for how it plays, when in reality it's the players. Admittedly, my time with Ghost was more so spent fighting bots because the bots didn't camp. But people say that game was really, really slow. I think Modern Warfare was slower, and I ran everywhere. I ran the whole time. I tried my best to be as aggressive as possible, and I tried to make it as fun as possible, and at times it was difficult to do so. The mantling can be good, but there were moments where I had problems with it, where it just wouldn't grab things. I'm hoping they can smoothen that out a little bit, because mantling is something that is very important, and there's nothing worse than getting caught mantling when you're trying to do a gunfight. And I don't mind that you can only hipfire when you're mantling. I think that's still a nice choice, and you should be punished for a movement option. But there are plenty of games that have fucked up mantling. Titanfall 2, I'm looking at you, where on one side it can be really, really good, but on another side you can get caught and get killed because you didn't want to do it. Accidental mantling has been a plague of a lot of first-person shooters, and I wish that this one was smoother. So the next point I've put is ambiguous and unreliable sound, horrible sound settings, and horrible mix. So I don't want this point to be confused with how good the sounds sounded. There was a lot of really, really nice sound design in the game in relation to what the sounds were meant to be. The guns sounded great. There was some really nice effects work going on there. But the first point, as I've put here, it was difficult sometimes to ascertain what sounds were, what direction they were coming from, and there were moments where it felt like they were coming from behind you but they were in front. There was a lot of directional sound problems with the game that led to some confusing moments, and this is something that COD has done quite strongly, and with this greater emphasis on audio design, I'm hoping that they can get this worked out. The horrible sound setting side was also things like the scorestreaks were absolutely deafening for no real reason other than that's what it would be like in real life. But, you know, this is a game where when you die you live again, so I really don't understand this conceit that everybody throws in your face. It gets a little tiresome. And then there was the mixing of the whole thing. Certain things were far too loud. The doors were far too loud. So many sounds were louder than other things. The announcer talked and shouted the whole time when you were playing Domination. The music was in it, and usually in COD you can turn down a lot of settings and you can alter a lot of things, but it was kind of universal in settings, so if you got rid of all the voices, you wouldn't hear anything. And there's certain voices that you need to understand when things are happening because they help you as you play. So they need to make it so that the announcer is separate from the voice. They need to make it so that perhaps Killstreaks have their own settings, that the guns themselves have their own settings, so that we can get some really advanced tweaking going. Because fundamentally, nobody wants to be able to be deafened the whole time while they're playing and not know what's going on, because audio is incredibly important, and in a game that values its audio so much, you would hope that the mix would be less muddled and less tilted towards just completely blitzkrieging every single sense you have in your face. This was a really, really big issue for a lot of people. It wasn't the end of the world, and I definitely learned to adjust to it, but it was not as good as it's been in the past, and Call of Duty should be wanting to improve, you know, not go backwards. The next one I've put is no shooting through teammates. I know what the comments in this video are going to be from the people that don't agree with my perspective and don't perhaps know my channel. It's going to be a lot of people talking about realism. And to those people, I always say the same thing. If you want realism, fuck off. Go outside. Go do something else, dude. This is a video game. You don't respawn in real life. You can't run infinitely in real life. You can't use illegal fucking weaponry in real life. Unless you live in America, but that's different. Like, this is a game. We don't want it to be real. Real life is sad, horrifying, and painful. And sometimes, you get somebody to touch your genitalia. But all the rest of the times, probably not the best place. Bad bosses, bad experiences, late fucking public transport, dickheads in traffic, you name it, life can be annoying. Video games are escapism. If you want realism, go play outside or play a realistic game. Play a simulator game. Play a military simulator game where you spend the whole time cleaning your fucking gun and walking through 9 miles worth of forest. Play that game. The game where you walk through 40 fields, don't see anybody, and at the end of it you get like an honourable discharge. Play those games. Don't play COD. COD has no place for realism. None at all. Except for the campaign, maybe, and even there it's gimmicky as fuck. Can't stand this, man. This realistic garbage. It's ruining games. You are the problem. Stop it. But on a serious note, the no shooting through teammates is really rough. And this has been something that I can't actually remember if you can shoot through your teammates in the other Call of Duties because it's been so long. But I never had the same amount of problems as I had in this game, where I got body blocked by my own team out of kills. There were a few times on Gunrunner where I was in the spawn and I was about to kill somebody who was running around the spawn killing my team, and one of my teammates would move in front of me trying to strafe to take him on. They'd lose the gunfight. I couldn't put any shots on him, and the moment that I could put shots on him, he'd kill me. Like things like that. And it got real frustrating. And I don't know how you fix this or what you do to make this work, but I'm sure somebody out there that's way more way more warmed up on the mechanics of COD can explain that to me, because I got really frustrated not being able to win certain gunfights because of getting body blocked. The next point I've put is claymores will only get worse. This needs little explanation. Claymores in Modern Warfare were disgusting. They were so disgusting they were the only lethal I used. This was a free kill every life with 0 skill and almost 0 way to get around it. They detonated instantly, they had nuclear radius, and even if you wore EOD, you could still die to them. And I'm sorry, that should not be a sentence that anybody talking about Call of Duty should ever have to elicit. This is garbage. This is fluent garbage. And that's not even mentioning there was a perk in this game called Restock that made them regenerate. Did they learn nothing from scavenger claymores in Modern Warfare 2? Does anybody want that Sinan as free-for-all garbage back? Because I know I don't. No one wants to die to claymores. Claymores are just trolley, and they've always existed, but they weren't always this bad. We made them less cancer. Make them less cancer again. They are skillless garbage that ruin the flow of the game. Don't get me wrong, if you plant a really clever claymore in Search and Destroy and you win the round with it, that's awesome, that's skillful, that's cool, that's where they shine. But when you're just running back from spawn to try and cap a fucking flag and you get claymored 5 times in a row, that's not how the game's ever meant to be. If that's how the game was meant to be, take the fucking guns out and give everyone a claymore. It's stupid. And I actually quite like claymores, because it always reminds me of like Rambo movies when he's going through minefields and stuff. Claymores are cool. Remember Commando? When Matrix plants a claymore outside a house and the house blows up as if there was explosives inside of it? Doesn't make any sense, but I liked it, you know? Claymores are only going to get worse. Then I've put ambient explosions, or ambient explosives aren't very realistic. So, I don't know if you came across this, guys, but in this beta there were so many barrels, so many like cylinders of gas that you could shoot, didn't look like they reacted at all, and then 15 seconds later they exploded and killed you or killed someone else. If you went on B flag on Gunrunner, there was barrels to the right of it near that alcove that you could use to kill people at that head glitch. It was interesting, but I don't think that random explosives that aren't really telegraphed that well on a map ever translate to skillful and interesting engagements. They translate to, how the fuck did I die? And then you watch the kill cam, and you're annoyed. It's not very realistic, is it? You shoot a fucking gas tank, they don't explode. If they want to use this conceit of realism to us, if they want to keep throwing realism in our faces, make it so that you shoot them and they do fuck all. Once again, guys, arguments with the conceit of realism in video games are always redundant, and I don't know why we do it, but we do. So, the next bullet point I've put is, when did tactical mean slow? I'm seeing a lot of people on Reddit. You know, I don't know why I read Reddit. It might as well be a list of people whose parents should have had a vasectomy, because some of the opinions on that place, dude, boggle my fucking mind. And I appreciate that everybody has a different opinion and everybody thinks differently, but I've never seen so much echo chamber garbage of bad ideas in my entire life. It's almost like everybody's trolling and they're doing it for attention. And I hope they are, because if they're sincere, I just can't understand how they enjoy the game, because the way they play, it must be so very unique. But this notion that you can't move and be tactical, that doesn't work. If you move in Call of Duty, you are an Adderall snorting, gamer rug owning, you know, G-Fuel chugging, strange person who has attention deficit disorders, who can't sit still, who's constantly, like, stealing things with immense kleptomania, and you do all of this without thinking, the entire time dribbling down yourself, and having no goal. Like, I can't understand this context for this one, because they talk about slow, tactical gameplay. Forcing people to be more tactical, more intelligent. Since when did slowness become intelligence? I don't get this. Have you ever watched speed chess? I love speed chess because it's chess only faster, and from someone who's not a big fan of playing chess themselves, I've got a lot of respect for chess because it's a very simple game once you learn the rules of it. It looks complicated at first, but every piece has its move. Once you learn the moves, you know the game. But anyone who plays chess well knows that is the surface of an incredibly high skill ceiling, because you're not playing against the pieces, you're playing against the person and how the person uses them. And you're not playing against what he's just moved, you're playing against what he wants to move five turns down the line once he's moved that and everything else into position. Chess is an incredibly tactical and an incredibly high intelligence sport, or game, or whatever you want to call it, and I think it's fascinating. And speed chess is chess, but quick. Does that denote that speed chess has no tactics, and no skill, and no strategy? Because I beg to fucking differ. So this notion that tactical and slow are the same thing is a giant misnomer that needs to die. Because when I run around a map, guys, I'm not running around a map to chase red dots, which is a phrase I despise. I'm not running around a map, like jumping around every corner, with no plan. I'm doing it because I have a general idea of where my team is, where the enemies might be, and what I want to achieve. There's always goal, there's always tactics, there's always methods, and they get better with experience and with repetition. Like, this notion that tactical means everybody has to crouch walk everywhere and hide behind barrels is bullshit, and stop propagating it because it's stupid. I know plenty of people that are more tactical in Call of Duty than anybody who sits behind a fucking barrel talking about tactical play. Like, tactics has nothing to do with speed. At all. The next point I've put is dropshot animation is busted. I don't know if this was console or PC, it was one system and not the other, but there was no intermediary animation. There was no interpolation between standing and prone, so when you dropshotted in a gunfight, you went from vertical to completely horizontal in a frame. It was very quick, and if you dropshotted throughout the beta, you had a big advantage. I didn't dropshot because of this, because I dropshot in every COD because I'm a filthy tryhard. Except the ones where dropshotting was bad, of course. But I would have done it if it was the main game because it was that strong, and I would really like for them to fix this because it was too strong. And unless you have good reflexes and your gun skill was good enough to notice they'd done it and immediately, change your aim, you would lose that gunfight because of the visual recoil. And the next one is body modifiers and headshot modifiers are broken. This is something that not many people are talking about but needs to be said. The reason Call of Duty works, guys, is because your bullets do the same damage regardless of where they hit, and then in some CODs, the headshot has a slight modifier. In this game, there are modifiers on almost everything, and the headshot modifier is nuclear. Do you want to know why an MP5 beat you at long range when you were using the M4? It's because they hit you in the head. All that having these modifiers does is turn gunfights into RNG. It removes the skill of a gunfight because any one stray bullet can win and resolve the conflict without you having any agency. And what happens, guys, you might not know why this is such a bad thing, but this is one of the worst things in the beta that needs to be addressed. You get into a gunfight with somebody, you shoot them first, you view kick them into a headshot where they kill you instantly in one bullet. They're hip firing, you're ADSing, you're on target, they're not on target, and when you hit them, you give them the advantage and you make them kill you. If you'd not shot them, they would not have killed you. But because of this modifier garbage, they hit you in the face with a random spray as they panicked, as they were losing, and they won. They beat your skill with bollocks, and it needs to go. The only reason I can think of this existing outside of realism is to give the advantage to people who aren't as good. This is an equalizer of the skill playing field. In a game where there will be people who are objectively better than you, but they'll never seem objectively better than you because anybody can get a kill. And I'm not a fan of this welfare approach to video games, because if there's nothing to strive for and there's nothing to learn, there will never be true differentiation between a good and a bad player. Games have to have good and bad players, the same reason they have to have rushers and campers. It is an ecosystem that has to exist for the game to flourish. Not everybody can be great, not everybody can suck. It's just how it is. There will always be a pecking order, a hierarchy, there will always be gazelles, and there will always be lions. It's just how it is. This has to go. Right, the next one. View kick, screen distortion, screen shake, wounding flash ammo, and monochrome. So the view kick in this game is nuclear. If you're playing on controller, you won't notice it as much because the aim assist has got a very high level of magnetism to keep you on target when you're firing. But if you play on mouse and keyboard, I can talk from experience here, guys. When you get shot, there were times, because I play on such high DPI, that one bullet would move me 6 inches off a target. Because the knock of it just hit me so hard, and I'm gone. I'm gone and I've lost that gunfight. This can be learned, and you can make it so that you don't have this so much, but it's still huge. The screen distortion, everything fucks with the screen. There's so much happening, the shell shock, the smoke. Some guy called in a predator on my team, dropped it on a flag as I was in a gunfight, and my gun just wobbled everywhere, I couldn't see a damn thing. It completely took away the skill from me at that moment, and almost made me lose, and I got really angry, because I don't want realism affecting how my gun feels. I don't want to have to fucking jeopardize losing a gunfight so that they can make it look like a Michael Bay movie, because there's nothing realistic about Michael Bay fucking movies. There's nothing realistic about a Predator missile coming in and me surviving on the same team as a guy. Games don't need realism, it ruins them. And then, of course, there was this ammo that when they hit you, it made your screen flash. It was a weird flicker on the top left, and I'm not entirely certain if that's what this was, but there were times when I wasn't flashed. I don't think the enemy had any kind of drone. It might have been a grenade, but my screen flashed, and because I'm quite sensitive to optical things, I kept noticing it, and it was triggering me fucking fierce. And then, of course, the grayscale, the monochrome. When you're dying in this game, your screen goes really black and white, and it's awful. It reminds me of Rainbow Six Vegas 1, where when you first got hit, your screen went really bright. Then when you got hit again, it went really dark. And why do developers insist on, in your moment of need, in that final crux moment of you're about to die, it's time to try and salvage this and win? In that desperation of that 11th hour, why do they make it harder to see? What was wrong with the blood? The blood on the screen was already hard enough to fucking see, but you could kind of learn to see through it. The black and white just annoys me, and there are good games that have used this before, but I just don't think it's essential. I do not think the black and white is essential to tell me that I'm wounded. I don't need that. I've never needed that. It's like when action games give you audio cues and all kind of screen distortion to tell you you're dying when you've got a life bar. I know I'm dying, developer. There's a fucking life bar. I can see it. I can actually look at the life bar. I have this thing called a brain, and I'll never understand that. I know it's visual and auditory language, but it's just unnecessary, and it should be able to be turned off. The best thing they could do with this game, guys, is let you turn it off in a menu. I don't like it. Titanfall 2 did it, didn't like it there, and I love Titanfall 2. Good games have done this, it's just dumb. So the next point I've put is launchers missing UAVs. So this might be my fault, this one, but something was going on in the game that I didn't understand. So the first launcher you unlocked was like a Strela, I think. And when you aimed at it, it beeped, and the square went coloured and you fired, and it hit perfectly. It hit everything. I had no problems with the first launcher. The second launcher was meant to be stronger, but I never ever hit anything except for jets. So I would aim at the UAVs and the counter UAVs and all that type of stuff, and it'd beep, and I'd wait for it, and I'd fire, and it'd fucking miss. And then I wouldn't wait for it, and I'd fire, and it'd miss. This thing would not hit UAVs, and I don't know if that's it's meant to kill airstreaks and not intelligence stuff, reconnaissance stuff. I don't know what the limitation was there. But when you lock on with a launcher, it should not miss. And I'm not talking about flares. UAV don't get flares. There's none of that bollocks. It just missed. And I wasn't missing, guys, but it was missing, and it confused me to high hell, because I didn't even notice it was missing until I watched the gameplay back. So, something was going on there. It could be player error, but please tell me if you guys had any experience with this, if you noticed what was different. The next point I've put is in full capitals, and it says make the game hit scan. If you don't know, Call of Duty was always hit scan all the way up until Black Ops 4, and then they ruined it. They ruined it with projectile. If you don't know the difference between hit scan and projectile, hit scan means the moment you press your trigger when you're aimed on somebody, you hit them. Projectile means there is travel time for your bullet to go from your gun to their body. So if they're moving and you don't lead your shot at distance, you will not hit them. I understand why people like this mechanic because Battlefield uses it, Battlefront uses it. It is a very simulation-esque feeling of having to accommodate for these certain mechanics, and it does add an extra level of skill, but COD has never needed it. COD was always better, and the guns always felt better when they were hit scan. If they made this change, I would immediately love this game 1,000 times more, but I know they're not going to, because it seems like the developers don't really want to make COD anymore. They want to make everything else, and that is a crying shame, because COD was one of the best shooters in the world, and it's losing its identity. It's in an identity crisis. The next point is, when did 3-lane become the enemy? So you'll notice that there's been a lot of talk about 3-lane maps. 3-lane maps. The new COD devs came out and said they want to move away from 3-lane maps. Here's a piece of objective truth for you. It might be tough to swallow, but like any medication, it's good for you. 3-lane maps are the best. 3-lane maps always flow the best. 3-lane maps are always the most competitive. 3-lane maps are a good thing. That being said, is it nice to have unconventional maps as well? Definitely. There are a lot of unconventional maps in Call of Duty that I've quite liked. There are a lot of unconventional maps in Titanfall 2 that I quite liked. But fundamentally, the better maps that played the best were 3-lane. It's hard to argue this. Think of things that weren't 3-lane. And even the ones that weren't 3-lane, you could probably find 3 lanes in there somewhere. But you know the ones that jump out to me? Bog. You could argue Bog is 3-lane. I would argue Bod is just a big circle, and the middle is just hell. Bog was such a fun map because it was a wall of death. It was two sides coming towards the middle and killing each other, and if you held the centre, you won. Unconventional, completely one-sided and horrifying for spawn trapping, but fun. Countdown's another one. Countdown is a big circle that I really enjoyed, because you walked around the edges and you killed any stragglers that you found, and there was always moments of conflict when people threaded through the middle. It had character, it was interesting. I don't think that those are conventionally 3-lane maps, but I still enjoyed them. Do you know what I don't enjoy? Fucking Grasna Raid. That map is 50 lanes of nonsense, and lanes that no one uses. Like, what's the point in that lane on the right with the trench where no bugger goes? Why don't they put B-flag out there? Can you imagine B-flag there? It would be a nightmare. But it would be better than it is. Like, this idea that maps don't flow and they have to be all kind of all over the place just leads to crazy playstyles and a frustration experience. Look at fucking, what was that stupid Stonehenge place off of Ghosts? Horrible map. Absolute cancer. What about that rainy, grassy level that I don't remember that had that like fucking... It had like a shopping centre on it. That was one of the first matches I played in Ghost against humans, and I quit. I walked around for like 10 minutes, killed 3 people, and then left. It was awful. Like, 3-lane map is not the enemy. It's just, if every map is 3-lane, a lot of people complain that they're the same, intrinsically the same. People compared Strike Zone to Dome. People compared it to things like Nuketown. 3-lane doesn't have to be the enemy. It doesn't. It's good design. It's just, it's always nice to have a couple of wildcards too. Wildcards are fun. But 3-lane map design is not a bad thing. And I don't know why people are making it out to be this. The only thing I can think of is that they're those crazy people on Vacant that go and hide in the grass. Are you one of those people who hides in the grass on Vacant? Because that's all I can think of. Like, I know that not every map in Call of Duty has been 3-lane, and some of those maps I've really liked. But fundamentally, they have to be good maps. They have to flow. They have to have the thing that makes them play well, and that's what's lacking when it's not 3-lane. The reason 3-lane works so well is because it translates naturally to how people play the game. When it's not 3-lane, it translates into, I don't know where anybody is, I don't know where anybody can see me from, and I keep dying to things that I can't counter because it's like I'm playing against the most random garbage. Oh, by the way, what I didn't mention on the death screen, I really like it when you regen your life and the guy goes... and he does that big inhale. I think that's a really nice touch, and I don't remember if that was in the other games, but I love that audio design. I think it's really cool. It's way better than the fucking screen shit. Next point. Gunsmith is great, debuffs are unimaginative. So the best thing in the game, I think everyone agrees, is the Gunsmith. Put all these attachments on your guns, change how it looks, change how it performs. However, every single gun's debuff is make its ADS slower. Every single one. And I don't understand why. They could have gone really creative with this, with making your run speed slower, making your go to prone speed slower, making it so that you're taller when you crouch. They could have done a million things that would nerf your gun, make it so that your hip fire's worse, make it so that you can't melee, or that your melee is slow or weaker. All these things they could have done that could have made you focused on a certain type of thing. Like, can you imagine if it made your grenade throw longer, or it made your tactical longer or something like that? There could have been so many ways they could have tweaked this. And I haven't even given this any thought. That's off the top of my head. Imagine the debuffs they could have done. Imagine the builds you could do. Because when they get rid of pick 10, the perk system is fucking archaic and boring, and you're probably going to run one setup the whole time. There's no flexibility. All the flexibility comes from Gunsmith. But when every fucking debuff is ADS speed in a game where ADS speed is really slow, it's going to stop people experimenting. It's going to quell creativity, and no one wants that. The next one is a PC-specific issue. You might not have seen this, guys, but when you ADS'd on PC, it locked the game at 60 Hz. So you had these weird lag spikes in your frames, and it was really, really difficult to aim. It was almost blinding transitioning from hipfire into ADS, and I lost a lot of gunfights and just had a really difficult time with it, because I play at 144 Hz. And once you get used to 144 Hz, it's very difficult to go back, especially when you're transitioning in a game. And it actually gave me headache. Both 2 days I played this game, I ended the session with really big headaches. And it wasn't because I was mad, because I was playing with people. They were getting mad. I was getting a little mad, but when I play with friends, it kind of debuffs me on the whole aggro scene. So it really helps me, so a big shout out to them. But this fucked me up. And then there was massive stutters when you respawned. Every time you respawned, after a certain period of time, your game just felt like your PC was dying. And it was happening to people on ridiculous setups, which was absolutely stupid. The next point is a controversial one, but it's a true one. Nerf the aim assist. So here's a little piece of history for you guys that you might not remember. On Advanced Warfare, they increased the mobility of a COD game to involve jumping and boosting and dodging. Because everybody moves so quickly, they had to increase the aim assistance to help people be competitive. Aiming on a controller is not an easy thing to do. It takes a lot of skill, it takes a lot of practice. There's a big difference between somebody shit on pad and somebody good. However, all controller players, except for the very interesting ones who turn this off, all controller players need that assistance for their aim to be as good as it is. Aim assist helps you a lot. I am somebody who's played on controller for like over 25 years. I got very comfortable with it. It was my go-to control scheme until I moved to PC. However, guys, COD has been getting less and less jumpy over these last few iterations because people are all tired of it. But what hasn't changed is that level of aim assist. So what has happened is we've gone from an aim assist that allowed everybody to be competitive to an aim assist that literally does 95% of the work. And the reason it was like that is because everybody was jumping and strafing and really fast and all over the place. But they're not anymore. People can't do that. The games aren't as fast or as vertical as they were, but the aim assist has stayed the same. I challenge anybody who thinks aim assist isn't a big deal to play a game of your favourite competitive game and turn it off. And see how well you do. Feel the difference when you do all the work. I've done this myself. It's a lot harder. It's objectively harder. And the reason that I want this to happen is because of crossplay. There is a huge misnomer here, guys, that mouse beats every single player on console. The reason that crossplay is terrible is that all the PC guys are going to destroy the controller players. It's going to be a massacre. And it's a lie, guys. It's a lie that you haven't experienced. And I'm going to stand on my own here on this pedestal and tell you that a mediocre pad player will beat a good mouse user almost every time. If they see each other at the same times, that pad player is going to have a big advantage. And I know it sounds crazy, and I know you're already typing an angry comment saying that I'm wrong and all of this, but trust me, guys. Trust me on this. I used to think the same. I used to think mouse on console would be the same thing as cheating. I don't think that anymore. I lost over that weekend to people on controller almost consistently. Because they do not miss. You don't miss, guys. When you're on target, you fucking kill people. Getting on target, that's where all the skill is. Going from being neutral to putting your reticle on an enemy, 1000% skill. When you're on that enemy, the computer takes over and you will beat a PC user every time. Did you see Scumpy versus Shroud? Didn't end well for Shroud, did it? Admittedly, that was emulated mouse, so it's completely different, but fundamentally, unless the PC guy sees you first, you're going to beat them. This is just how it works. And for it to be a more competitive environment, even for console players, the aim assist needs to come down. Look at a game like Rainbow Six. Rainbow Six Siege has no aim assist. Every time you get in a gunfight in that game, it's man on man, it's human on human, there's no AI interfering. There's no one assisting you, there's no socially agreed upon aimbot. You beat him with your gun skill. You don't do that in COD. This is not saying that you're not a good player. You are. But that you do not need the level of aim assist that you're currently getting. It's too strong. It's way too strong. It's training wheels and you don't need it. Cruise missile is too slow to activate. Spawn protection isn't very MW2. Very, very simplistic here. The cruise missile is a shit predator missile. It takes away all the immediacy, all the fun, and all the dynamic ability to use it to change the tide of a domination or some kind of game mode. And then the spawn protection on the streaks is absolute stupidity. The reason people like Modern Warfare 2 is because you can shit on people when they spawn from an AC-130 and get a nice 6-man feed in the kill feed. Nobody wants spawn protection. All it does is make your kill streaks feel weak and make people complain that they're not like MW2. You might think it's weird that I mentioned Modern Warfare 2, but people seem to think that this is a renaissance version of that game, when in reality they couldn't be more different. Trust me on this, guys, I play Modern Warfare 2 a lot. Overkill should be perk 2, it has no trade-off. This one's easy. Overkill lets you carry 2 weapons, but it doesn't conflict with using Ghost, so there's no penalty for doing it, and the perk 1, all the tier 1 perks are terrible. No reason not to use Overkill. VTOL wallbang needs to go. So if anybody got a VTOL in the beta, you'll know that the VTOL could kill you through buildings. It would perfectly aimbot you through the roof of a building that had no gaps in it. Aimbot you through bricks, through everything. It had way too much penetration. It was cool when it was yours, because you got a lot of kills you shouldn't have got, but for the balance of the game, it needs to go. My next point is no reason not to run Ghost. So because of the limited kill streaks, because the fact that getting kill streaks in this beta was quite difficult for people due to just the way people played and various other factors, wearing Ghost was essential because it was nothing but UAV spam and it kept you off the UAV. There was no reason to do anything else in my opinion, and Call of Duty has always had this problem. Stopping power was the biggest reason for people not running cold-blooded, but even then, Modern Warfare 2 introduced some horrible guns that did not really benefit from stopping power, so people got around it anyway. You need a risk versus reward system to stop people from using that perk, or it becomes a crutch perk, and it makes the second tier of perks completely worthless. They wanted this to be classic and make people choose different builds and have creativity. There is no creativity in a game where Ghost is this prevalent or this necessary. Personal radar is worthless. I personally think that the personal radar is not very good. If you don't know, guys, a chopper flies in and it does a wipe of the map and it gives you like a sonar ping of the people. But the way that the sonar pings, all it does is misdirect, because it shows you where people were, not where people are. And I've only used it for the point so that I could constantly be calling something in if I wasn't having a good game. And I just feel like it's a wasted streak. There could have been something really interesting there, and it just didn't work for me. So it'd be really nice if they could tweak it to be a bit more consistent or a bit more meaningful. Then I've put make wallbanging mean a fuck. So, anybody that played COD 4 will know, shooting people through walls was a very powerful mechanic in that game that was encouraged due to a perk called Deeper Penetration. In the later games, there's been a perk that has been known as FMJ that also does the same thing, but Call of Duty has consistently moved away from shooting people through walls, and I'll never understand why, because ever since the beautiful Farsight in Perfect Dark on N64, shooting people through walls is fun. It's strategic. Damn near it's tactical. If you know where someone's going to be, shoot them through a wall. And you shouldn't have to use a FMJ light machine gun to do it. If you pick FMJ on your weapon, it should shoot through fucking everything, dude. That thing should be shooting through a lot of stuff. Wallbanging is great. Does it lead to some moments where you get killed by some guy that was hip-firing another person and it killed you through a wall? Definitely. But it also allows a player to understand where an opening is and where a wall that correlates to that opening and pre-fire a doorway and play at a higher level than other people. Go watch Syrian play Nuketown. He knows every wallbang spot from playing so much Black Ops 2 hardcore. It's just a skillful thing that can also be immensely skillless, but it's better when it's in the game. Stopping power seems overkill in a game where you die so fast. So if you don't know, guys, there was a field kit called Stopping Power where you're man-putting a clip into the gun and it made you kill quicker. Admittedly, I think it was more balanced than I feared it was going to be on certain guns because I didn't really notice a difference in the MP5 or on the M4. This might have been horrendous ping and crazy latency, but I lost gunfights against people with unbuffed guns when I didn't miss a bullet. So I don't know if I got super bulleted, I don't know what went on, but this was more balanced than I thought it was, outside of the Odin. Apparently the Odin became a one-hit kill with this, and the Odin was an automatic weapon that fired quite slow. No score streaks is insanity. I don't need to talk about this, guys. This is just obvious. Apparently there's a perk in this game that gives you score streaks. I think this should be reversed. I think the perk should give you kill streaks. I think everybody should have score streaks by default, because all kill streaks do is predicate a playstyle that will prioritize killing people and playing defensively instead of playing the objective. Do you want people on flags helping your team in a heated domination? Make it score streaks, not kill streaks. If you want a coward to never touch a flag, staying 1/3 of the map the whole game, camping it up, ADSing every time, and getting his nukes, that's all that's going to happen. People will bitch out and do the most low-tier strategies to get their fancy KDs and their fancy fucking nuclear medals and everything, and all it's going to do is piss off people who want to win. There's no reason this should ever be in a game. It was fixed in several Call of Duties. Take it back now. Brightness, contrast, darkness, your game's aesthetic is failing, is what I've put for the next point. So, if anybody played Azerbaijani Tea Party, the majestic map that was Azir Caves, there were these transitions between going into darkened caves, into bright sunlight, and the contrast was so ridiculous on them that when you were in the cave, I couldn't see anybody. I literally couldn't see a damn target. I couldn't see a thing. When I was looking into a cave, it was just an aphotic body of black. It was terrible. People would kill you from a position of advantage that they did not deserve because the visibility was not the same on both screens. It was horrendous. The game itself is trying to be so realistic and adhere to this like photorealism that the visuals almost have no style to them. They're all just clinical and uninspired in my opinion, and all this leads to is very difficult target acquisition, which is the next point I have on this list. Target acquisition is a problem, no one pops, enemy names are bugged. So, several times in this beta, I saw two people run around a corner and I thought they were my teammates because they didn't have names. And then the names popped up after I was dead. I even start firing once and then stopped thinking I'm shooting a teammate because I shot my teammates so much because finding enemies was so difficult. Target acquisition in this game is a nightmare. Everybody looks the same, no one pops, it is very, very difficult. And I don't know why it's a problem when Black Ops 4 did it perfectly. The enemies in Black Ops 4 have red lights on them. If you can't see a red light to know that it's a bad thing, then you'll never learn. Like, it's the ultimate system. Do you see somebody in the distance with a glowing red light on them? Shoot them! It makes the world of difference in a game where everybody sticks their forehead round a barrel and shoots you in the face leaning. And I don't know why this is a problem. It shouldn't be a problem in a game. Not after there's been so many. Spawns are quite rigid, but also sporadic. So, the spawns in this game are terrible. The amount of times you can spawn behind the guy that killed you is a nightmare. The amount of times you can spawn into an enemy's line of sight is a nightmare. That being said, it also reminds me of Call of Duty 4. There are times when you can run through a spawn on your own and tear up a big storm, and it won't flip. The spawns are surprisingly structured and rigid at times. However, they need a little bit of tweaking and refinement because there's some serious revenge spawn going on, and there's some weird moments of, why would you spawn me there, game? Wasn't there a better place to put me? COD has always had problems with spawns. This is something that can be learned, but it would be really nice to see them tweak this because I don't want to die because you picked me the worst place to spawn in. Then I've got servers are something else, horrible desync, an enemy weapon nonsense, camera angling. So this is a big problem, this one, guys. You might not know what these terms are, so I will try to describe them. So there's been some netcode tests on YouTube that have taken into consideration competitive multiplayer games that are out right now, Black Ops 4 and Modern Warfare Beta. Modern Warfare Beta was the worst out of every single one on every single test. It was worse than Black Ops 4. It was considerably worse than all the other competitive shooters people are playing right now. Activision are, of course, a very small indie company with little money. They should really pay a lot more for this to make this better, because this is where people are going to hate the game. So horrible desync means when you get into an engagement with somebody and you shoot them 1,000,000 times and then they kill you in a bullet, and then on their kill cam you never fire, they shoot you 1,000,000 times and you die. There is not the same image happening on both sides. And regardless of all that, the kill cams are never accurate, the kill cam's just an interpretation of what the game thinks, it doesn't matter, guys. When you see a guy for 3 frames and die, and he sees you for 40 seconds and takes his time to aim, you are not taking on an honest engagement. There is nothing fair or equal about that firefight. You got fucked because of camera angling and horrible desync. Camera angling, for those that don't know, guys, is merely when someone's peeking around a corner and they see you before you were even on their screen. It's something that happens between the latency and various other factors. You can Google it and watch some very interesting tutorials. Happens in all games, happens in CSGO, happens in everything. It's one of those things that's probably never going to go away until internet gets really, really good, and the way that the games handle that kind of thing is improved. And enemy weapon nonsense is just... Have you ever noticed how when an enemy uses a gun, they kill you in 1 bullet, but when you use their gun, you kill them in 20 bullets? You ever noticed that? How the enemy seems to have a better version of your gun, and yet you pick it up and it's still shit for you? It's almost like their guns are better and yours are not. This has been something that's always bad in connection-heavy COD games, especially when the servers are bad. Right, Modern Warfare 2 had good hit detection, this game does not. So... once again, guys, everyone's comparing this to Modern Warfare 2. COD is back. It's back to the greatness of Modern Warfare 2. This game is not Modern Warfare 2. Do you know why? Because Modern Warfare 2 had Infinity Ward hit detection, and this game doesn't. The hit detection in this game, combined with the servers, combined with the desync, is really, really, really hit and miss. It is nowhere near as good as what Ghosts was. Ghost was the same system of Infinity Ward hit detection. Ghost had some of the best hit detection in the series. It was really nice. This game's hit detection, not so great. My next one is Modern Warfare 2 Romanticism. This is a really big deal, this one, guys. There's a lot of people that haven't played COD in a long time and are coming back because they feel like it's going back to classic Modern Warfare 2. Do you want an objective truth, guys? Modern Warfare 2 was not as good as you remember. It was not. Modern Warfare 2 was a product of its generation. It was a product of the time it came out. If you went back to it now, I'm almost 90% guaranteed you wouldn't like it as much. The nostalgia would carry you so far, the reality would crush your fucking memories. And I had this very experience, but I came at it from a different experience. I did not like Modern Warfare 2. I thought Modern Warfare 2 was a skill-free garbage game full of people who should not deserve to get a kill streak smashing me with every single kind of air support. Modern Warfare 2 was a game where everybody was overpowered, so nobody was overpowered. It literally allowed every single player in the lobby to have a hero moment, whereas in COD 4, the only people that did well in that game were the good players. Everybody else was slaughtered. It was a skill ceiling that I really appreciated because by investing time and by playing at a higher level, you got rewarded. In Modern Warfare 2, everyone got rewarded, and I fucking hated it, and I will always hate it. So you will never ever see any of this romanticism for Modern Warfare 2 from me. However, I went back to Modern Warfare 2 on PC, and I played a decent amount of it, and I had a pretty good time. But the things that I'd forgotten were nuclear. Absolutely nuclear. The movement, the speed, the pace of it, certain features that you just forget, how cancerous the snipers were, all the explosive dog shit that everybody used. Modern Warfare 2 had a ton of problems, guys. It is not the game you remember. For its time, it was a ton of fun. It had a lot of great features. It did a lot of things right. I don't think any Call of Duty has done kill streaks like Modern Warfare 2 did. Those kill streaks felt so good all the time. They were just... you always felt happy and adrenaline-fueled when you were using a chopper gunner or an AC-130. It always felt good to call a Predator in. It always felt good to get Harriers. But some of this romanticism that people are deluding themselves into believing is not true. You don't remember trying to run through a room and getting stuck on every fucking piece of furniture because the collision's terrible. You don't remember that one dude running around with bloody tack knife the whole fucking game, stabbing you repeatedly, or some of the spawns that happened. You don't remember some of the spawn traps, some of the terrible spawns, some of the games you joined where it was nothing but air support, some of the fucking cancer maps. Remember Derailed? What a horrible map. Remember getting beat in a gunfight by the UMP at every distance, no matter what gun you used? Like, people forget. Remember camping with claymores and getting nukes? Like, people forget. Modern Warfare 2 did a lot of good stuff, and I will always respect that game, but it's not the game you remember, and you don't want it again. You do not want it. There's been so many quality of life changes to COD. Going back to Modern Warfare 2 would be an insult. Leave it where it is. Go and play it as a fun thing. Wait for the remaster where they'll inevitably ruin it and fill it full of fucking microtransactions. If you want to play it right now, get IWAX. It's a free version of Modern Warfare 2 where there's no explosions if you pick the right server. I've played a ton of those servers. It's not the game you remember. Is it fun? Yeah, it's fun. But it's also got a lot of problems that you just completely forget. Next point is game needs backfilling. So, in all my time with the beta, I only saw one instance of backfilling, and that was when I was watching a streamer. Backfilling simply means when people leave, other people will be populated into the game so that it can continue. Nobody wants to join a losing game. Nobody wants to join a game that's got so much air supremacy that the moment you spawn trapped. That being said, there are plenty of opportunities where people leave, and it's not like that. So I would definitely encourage that this is a mechanic that needs to exist, because one of my favourite Call of Duty 4 gameplays on YouTube is called the fastest TDM I ever played, or something like that, where I join a game late and the score is approximately tied midway through, and then I go on a 19 kill streak and win the game. It was a beautiful gameplay at the time that I was very proud of, even though, you know, it's not even that impressive when you watch it. But that stuff is fun when it happens because you feel like you made a difference. You feel like you were the person that helped your team win. You're not going to get those experiences if there's never backfilling. Backfilling is very important for the life of a game. M4 beats everything. Realistic weakness, elevate everything else instead of nerf. So, I don't need to tell you that the M4 was the best gun in the beta. The only gun that even challenged it was the MP5 if you're on a good connection. The M4 was really strong. I would really like them to create a weakness for the gun that was decent and didn't destroy the viability of it. Maybe, instead of nerfing the M4, make everything else stronger. Do you know the reason why people have such romanticism towards Modern Warfare 2? Every gun in that game is overpowered. Every single one. Every gun in that game is really good. Except maybe the F2000. But even that gun can be good. It's just got so many downsides, you have to play really well to do well with it. But the reason those weapons are so fondly remembered is because no matter what you picked, you could always compete, because everything was broken. It's not a bad balance, in my opinion, if you get rid of some of the cancer. But let's try not to just make things shit. You know when they take away from a weapon so much that no one uses it anymore? Nobody wants that. You want your meta to include everything. If you can get everything in the meta, I think you did a good job. And as much as Modern Warfare 2 is a broken fucking game, it did a decent job of making people use a lot of things. Even though you saw a lot of FAMAS, you saw a lot of ACI, you saw a lot of UMP. You saw a lot of, you know, double models, a lot of interventions, a lot of 50 cals. Making a game for non-COD players will ostracize people who play COD. So I think that this is one of the most important points in this video. Call of Duty right now have absolutely no idea what to do. The people who play it hardcore just want COD to be good. They just want it to focus on its strengths. They want it to do what they enjoyed about Call of Duty. For a lot of people, what they enjoyed about Call of Duty is kind of what was personified in something like Black Ops 2, or even maybe Modern Warfare 3, if you take away stuff like lag comp and host advantage. They want Call of Duty to focus on its strengths and incorporate what it did well. Modern Warfare 2's Killstreaks, you know? Black Ops 2's balance. Maybe something like Black Ops 1's map design, where a lot of the maps in it a lot of people liked, you know? They want it to have what COD does well. But COD doesn't want that. They want it to have boost jumping and sliding and wall running because Titanfall was doing it. You know, they want it to have classes and ults and abilities because Overwatch was doing it. They want it to do 32 versus 32 huge battlefields where you can get in a tank and sit on a hill and camp on a head glitch as a tank. Because that's what Battlefield does, and they're having a tough time at the moment with a shitty sequel. Like, they want you to lean, and mount your fucking gun, and open doors like a pussy, because that's what bloody Rainbow Six does. And the reason they're doing this, guys, is because they're aiming it at markets for people who don't play COD. They want to get people who don't play COD playing their COD. But the price of it is making the people who love the series not want to play it anymore. COD is all about the gunfights. It's all about that fast, frenetic pace. It's not about running across a battlefield for 10 fucking minutes only to get shot by a sniper 6 weeks ago in the sticks. That's Battlefield. Go play that. Go play Battlefield fucking Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, Battlefield 2049 or whatever it's called, that one that everybody loves that I never played because I'm a heathen. Play Battlefield 1. There's plenty of games that do these things really well. And this is why everyone asks me, Chris, what do you think of Ground War? What do you think of Ground War? Do you know what I thought of Ground War, guys? Fuck Ground War! I don't want Ground War! I never wanted Ground War. Do you know what Ground War is, guys? It's 9v9. That's Ground War. It's not 32 versus 32, where 500 people camp in one building next to a flag they'll never cap. I have no interest in playing Battlefield in COD. If I wanted that, I'd go to a series that does it better. What I want from COD is what COD does well. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying don't innovate, I'm not saying don't take risks, and I'm not saying don't try these crazy new things, because there's a lot of people that do want that. But that core audience that plays this game the whole year, which is not even me, let's be fair, it's a lot of people I watch, they don't want Battlefield. They play COD because of the way it feels and the way it plays. And when you turn everything into a battle royale and a fucking huge massive battle with vehicles, that's not what COD is. That said, it does those modes pretty well, because it's such a good shooter, but you're diluting your strengths, and you're adding all of these options, that look at Battle Royale on PC for Black Ops 4. You can't even find a game. It's dead. There's not enough players to fucking start a lobby. You are sacrificing your strengths by bolstering several weaknesses, and you'll spread yourself too thin, and ultimately fail. People want COD. They don't want Siege. Do you know why, guys? Because if you want Siege, you play it. Siege is a fantastic game for a lot of people. But you know why it's so appreciated? Because it's not like Call of Duty. How many times do you hear in Rainbow Six Siege, go back to COD, go back to Fortnite? It's a different breed. It's okay for things to be different. And that's what scares me here. That this craving for this homogenization, and all it's going to do is hurt the game. And I know I'm not alone on this, and I know people completely disagree with me. But as strong as the game will be with all this big new audience, all you're going to do is bring a new audience that doesn't appreciate or understand what you are. And at the end of the day, when you're trying so hard to be something that you're not, who's really winning? I got into Call of Duty because of Call of Duty 4. I didn't play COD 2 that much or COD 1 because I didn't care about World War stuff. I liked modern settings. COD 4 came out, I was in love with the MP5. Like, it's the small stuff that gets you into it, but it's the core that keeps you there. I stayed with COD because there was no other game that felt like it. I could run around and shoot people, and I could do so feeling powerful. It was frenetic, it was fast, it was action-packed. There was times on the beta where I ran around Modern Warfare and I didn't even see anybody. Can you imagine that? And I'm a guy who likes block. On block, you run around a map, you don't see anybody, and then you get in that one building, and there's 6 of them lined up perfectly for you, because they're all sniping. And it was worth it! Whereas in this game, you run around the whole map, see nobody, then you turn around, and everybody comes out the way you just weren't looking and shoots you in the back. Terrible. No pick 10 is devastating. So this is another one to me that seems like it's so obvious I don't know why they would ever go back. The 3 perk system is inferior in every conceivable way to the pick 10. And here's why, guys. The perk system means that you have to sacrifice something that would enable you to defend against the bullshit. So here's what happens, right? On the pick 10 system, you sacrifice grenades and tacticals so you can put more attachments on your gun or run more perks. You make your player more capable in one way while making him less capable in another, and it works, it's useful. In this game that's coming out, guys, everybody's going to have a flash, everybody's going to have a stun, and everybody's going to have a claymore. Can you remember in Black Ops games where you never really ran into that stuff outside of specific people that ran that stuff? Like, did you ever run into people using that many tacticals in something like Black Ops 3? Did you notice that almost all the good players dropped grenades, dropped the pistol, and just ramped up on attachments and perks because they relied on their gun instead? Can you remember lobbies where you weren't getting flashed every 10 seconds and you weren't getting miracle grenade like COD 4? Do you know why quad frags was so... triple frags, sorry, in COD 4 was so cancer? Because everybody could start with it. Everybody could start with it on every life. And I loved it because I love throwing frags in that game. That's because I'm a dickhead. That's different. When you give everybody a tactical, it means you have to run tac mask and flak jacket or you're going to lose. You have to do it. You can't not do it. And tac mask and flak jacket in this game are dog shit. Don't even get me started. But you have to run this now. It's not like a go-to domination class when you want to jump on flags. It's a mandatory setup. And you've just completely eradicated 2 separate perks because you can't ever change them. Because every single person you come against is going to be spamming grenades. So you have to run those. So every other perk might as well not exist. That leaves you with 1 perk to change. 1 perk for choice, and most people will run ghosts. So your setup on every single class is going to be the same, because you're going to have to counter it. And in this game, there's no toughness, so you can't counter view kick. Countering view kick in this game is going to be really, really important, and I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to need to do it. Where's gung-ho? Where's dexterity? Where are all these perks that enable you to be a better player, to be a more aggressive player? They're not there, because you have to run flak jacket and tac mask, and if you take them off, you're going to get constantly bombarded and killed by bullshit. All they've done is make every person who tries to play COD at a higher level run the same class. And this always happens in COD, even on the pick 10... The pick 10? Am I a Kiwi? What was that? No. Even on the pick 10 system, this still happened, but there were still more options. As it stands now, all they're doing is limiting their setups completely and then making the gunsmith the priority. Gunsmith is going to see a whole new world of awesome creativity until 2 months into the game when everyone figures out the OP setups and no one uses anything else and it spreads like wildfire. But when it comes to your builds, they're all going to be the same. All going to be the same. I just don't see a future in the 3 perk system. In my opinion, it's antiquated. And I don't understand how... And do you know how they're advertising it? They're advertising it as more choice. More choice? Like, what the fuck? More choice. Are you high? It's less choice. It doesn't make sense to me. But Specialist is coming back, so that'll be really good for getting perks, which is quite nice. I think I'm going to run Specialist a lot. But Ghost should only work when you move. Don't reward cowardice. I think that this is a no-brainer. And also, this should be based on distance too, because you can't have that nonsense where you AD strafe and that counts as moving. We're talking you have to take like 9 steps or something for it to trigger, because people get around this. I'll never forget Wings of Redemption, like stepping back and forth and re-ADSing to get away from idle sway and to make it pick up on his ghost, because you know what Wings is like. But fundamentally, guys, if you're going to be off the radar, there has to be a good reason for it. And a good reason, in my opinion, is taking a risk. Take a good risk. If you move in this game, you're taking risks. That risk should be rewarded with not being on the map for heads-up play. Weapon perks need work, risk versus reward. So, as it stands, the perks on the weapons are all kind of really standard stuff, and some of them are really stupid. Like, one of them gives you better melee. I'm never meleeing in this game. Fuck melee, dude. This is a first-person shooter, not a first-person slapper. I don't want a melee. Shot punching is cancer, and it ruined Black Ops 4. The weaker the melee in a COD, the better the game is. And if you want to do some kind of melee setup, it should be highly focused and easy to counter. I feel like the perks need more stuff, and there needs to be drawbacks to it. There needs to be some kind of, you put this on here, and you take a risk, but you feel the reward from it. And at the moment, the only perks I ever put on the guns are Sleight of Hand, for the obvious reason, because I run and gun, so I need to reload. But additionally, Recon. Recon is Marksman, and Marksman's really strong in a game where you can't see anybody, because the fucking visuals are so cluttered and blurry. Then I've put Respawn Delay is whack. So, respawn delay to me should only ever be present in kind of the bigger battles. Like, if you're playing Ground War, I think respawn delay there makes sense, because it will make it, dare I say it, more tactical. Because you can't just keep running at a flag like a lemming would, and I think that that would be better. But when it's 6v6, take it out the game, man. COD is about quick restarts. The reason I never played Search and Destroy is because it was like Gears Warzone. When you died, you watched other people play. I don't play COD to watch people play COD. I watch enough people play COD on streams. I don't want to be doing it when I'm playing it. Respawn delay, all it does is frustrate people who are used to immediately being back in the action. And at the end of the day, if you want to feed the enemy killstreaks by immediately rage respawning and running back into the thing that killed you, is that really a bad thing? People love going on streaks. Then I've put, kill cam has to show input method. I think this is really important, because it's easy to tell sometimes how you lost, but a lot of the times it's nice to be certain. So one of the things I did is I was very curious when there was mixed players in my lobbies of whether or not I died to a PC guy or to a console guy, and whether or not they were using a controller or a mouse. And it made it really interesting. And I have a lot of footage showing the difference between someone on mouse and keyboard and someone on controller. And I have a wonderful, what I affectionately named Cripple Fight, with another guy, and he was the only guy on the enemy team who was on a mouse. We couldn't hit each other. We just couldn't do it. It was very embarrassing for both of us, but it was wonderful, because if that had been anybody else, I was dead. Because it just doesn't happen like that. It doesn't. I would literally have to come up against somebody with no hands and no eyes, and they're like sending telegraphs for somebody to move the controller for them, with like a penguin who's learned progressive jazz and is really good on the sticks. Like, there's just no way you could have got into that gunfight that I had with him. And this is really going to help, because when you get into a fight and you die instantly, almost every time I would say, oh, that's controller. Because you die too quickly. You die so quickly, it feels inhuman. And this comes back to the aim assist thing I was talking about. I never expected it to be like this, guys. I thought mouse and keyboard would have the ultimate advantage. And I've watched the best player in the world, in my opinion, lose to someone on a controller who's probably mild and average. Like, I can't even begin to tell you guys. And I hope that people will try to experience it, to see the other side of it, to really learn what it's about. Because it's not this great divide that you think. And there's a lot of really good players on controller who will fuck you up. So getting fucked up by the bad players is just insult and injury added on. But here I've got Dom cap bar obscures your aim. This is kind of a really strange one in my opinion. I don't know why they did this. So when you're capping a flag, the bar of filling is directly in the middle of the screen where your reticle is. I learned to ignore it, but it's completely unacceptable when I look back. This is just bad design when it comes to UI and overlay. Please move it, it's unnecessary. Same with that stupid song that plays when you triple cap, that's just dumb too. I don't even think I've gone into the audio on here. I might have jumped over some... Yeah, I did. Interesting. I don't know why I did this, guys. I missed a couple of points here. One of them is EOD and Battle Hardened need buffing. I've already touched this. Flak Jacket and Tac Mask are too weak. You can still die to Claymores with Flak Jacket on. You still get super flashed from flashbangs when you wear Tac Mask. They need to be much stronger for this game, because everyone's going to have them. It's going to be really hard. And then I've put zoom the map out, make firing paint you, and remove the compass. This is kind of a big one, this one. In my opinion, the map is too zoomed. It makes it difficult to use, and we weren't even going to get a map, which just leads to the confused direction of the design here. The compass exists to replace the map, but it does the same thing the map did, it only does it worse. So in my opinion, they've created a system that didn't need to exist to replace a system that already exists and already was superior. All they need to do now is remove the compass, because the map is better. Pull that map out, make it so when you fire you show on the map like it has always been in COD, and it will be perfect. As it stands, suppressors have almost no point, because when you fire, you don't show up as a red dot. There's no disadvantage to shooting in this COD, and it's fucking stupid. But I missed those two just then. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know how I did that. Right, the next one is lag compensation and skill-based matchmaking. So, these are the boogeymen that I didn't want to drop in this video, but I'm going to talk about it because it's important. Ever since Modern Warfare 3, there have been two things that have plagued Call of Duty, especially on YouTube, especially when it comes to enjoying the game. The first was lag compensation, this idea that even if you had good internet, it would make your internet shitty to equalise the gunfights, and a lot of good players lost fights they should have won, so it made them inherently untrustworthy of the dishonest nature of the game. I experienced this a lot, and I fell into the pitfall as well, and I'm trying my best not to do it now, because I want to come back with fresh eyes, and I want to look at it for what it is, rather than for what I feel it is. Because sometimes when you die in games, the easiest thing in the world is to assume you're infallible and blame it on everything else, but if you do that, you'll never learn, and you'll never improve. And the moment you stop learning and the moment you stop improving is the moment you stagnate, and nobody wants that. You don't want to plateau, you want to constantly move forward. You want to always be improving, or why bother, in my opinion. And this is a big one for it. Lag compensation could have been in the beta, but I can't speak of it personally because the servers and the ping were so disingenuous and all over the place all the time that there were some games where my bullets felt good, there were some games where I couldn't buy a kill. And I don't know what caused it, but I don't want to use this word, but it's definitely it's a sword of Damocles hanging over the launch of this game to find out whether or not this exists. And then the second one is skill-based matchmaking. I did not see that much evidence of skill-based matchmaking in the beta, but what I will tell you is that I fought against some of the best players I've ever fought against in Call of Duty. And this could have been a few factors. So firstly, I haven't played COD seriously since Black Ops 2. So I'm not very good at COD anymore, I'm rusty. I still have a lot of my old instincts, and I still know what I should do, but perhaps I'm not as good as I need to be to judge this situation correctly. Additionally, this is my first Call of Duty on PC. I was always a console COD player. I played all the other ones on console, so this is my first time experiencing PC. It's a different platform, it's a different playing field, there's a lot of things to adjust to. And then the next one, which is the thing that I blamed it on personally, is Call of Duty has now been around for close to 20 years. In 20 years, people have played a lot of COD. Everybody's really good at COD now. When I first started back in the day, everybody was playing on shitty TVs with 5 million seconds worth of input lag. Everybody was sat there with the speakers blaring in a room with a friend on split screen. Nobody had like really good headsets. Nobody was using custom controllers. Nobody had Game Freaks. Nobody had, you know, all the peripherals that we're using now. You didn't have these people playing Call of Duty that wanted to become millionaires and MLG pros and streamers and pub stompers on YouTube. YouTube was just kicking off. So there was people going for gameplays, but not like it is now. These days, if you don't get killed by somebody with Twitch TV in his name, by the way, you haven't died in the game. Like, everybody's trying to make it in this world of video games in these new Call of Duties, so every single lobby seems to be filled with people trying their absolute best. And I don't mind it that much, because I'm a filthy tryhard the whole way. I don't see the point in playing a game unless you're trying hard. I want to be the best. I've always been that way. It's just who I am. So when I get in a match with everybody else trying as hard as me, when I'm busting my ass to do average, it makes me wonder what's happening to the people who are terrible at COD. What's happening to the player who's not good at COD but he just loves it and he just plays it because it's his favourite game? Is he getting demolished? Because he must be, because I'm getting demolished and I've always looked at myself as a decent COD player. So skill-based matchmaking is something that the developers always try to test and always try to implement in certain CODs at certain times, but no one wants it. If you want to play against people of your level, that's what League plays for. That's what the competitive ranked stuff is for. The reason people love this series and why it's so popular is because we get to smash people who don't have hands. Everybody's praying for a lobby full of split screeners that are so high they can't even see the fucking planet Earth anymore. That's what we want. We want people that don't shoot backs. Backs? I don't know why I said S there. We don't want people to shoot back. We want a lobby full of bots so we can feel better about our lives. That's what we want. We want to destroy and get all the kill streaks and feel superior in that moment, even though we're playing a video game and none of it really matters. That's what makes COD so addictive and so fun. You don't want to run into a lobby full of guys trying just as hard as you, if not harder, and are indeed better, because then you just get smashed. However, that's also part of COD. Every so often, you get bodied. You get into a lobby where you get smashed and there's nothing you can do, and you try your best to be competitive and maybe you do okay, but your entire team feeds them kills and there's no way you're ever going to win. That's Call of Duty. The nature of the randomness is that you don't know who's going to be in the lobby, and that's what makes it exciting. But when every game is you trying your ass off like some of those beta games were, it's exhausting, it can be fun, but it's not why people play. And I think single-handedly this is the biggest issue that the game will face if they use this system, because just judging by Reddit, and Reddit is a sycophantic nightmare, nobody wants this in the game. There's nobody over on Reddit sucking the dick of skill-based matchmaking. Like, it's a surprise to me, as an anal prolapse would be, but it's true, you know? No one wants this. So the developers would be remiss if they were to put this in, and I hope they don't, and I don't think they have. I just think that you were probably getting unlucky and getting matched against maybe some YouTubers, maybe just some of those crazy unknowns that are just gods on the sticks. Who knows? But I don't want it to exist, you don't want it to exist, and hopefully it won't. Coming to the end here, guys. Hipfire is too strong for a realistic game. The best thing they could do for this game, guys, is tone the hipfire down. And that's coming from somebody that loves perfect hipfire, but it doesn't suit Call of Duty. In Call of Duty, there is usually a perk called Steady Aim, and it exists for a reason, to make hipfire more viable. In order for good, skillful gunfights to take place, hipfire can't be strong, or it's just going to be two people rolling dices and hoping they get a bullshit headshot. And when you combine that with the modifier I mentioned earlier, this is just a nightmare situation. You could kill people at mid-range with the MP5 just as effectively as if you'd ADS'd. And I'm sorry guys, that's not how the game should be. COD has never really been like that outside of some very rare instances, and I don't think it was ever meant to be a game where the hipfire was ever really viable outside of certain submachine guns and certain dual setups, akimbo stuff. COD is not about hipfire. That's why the ADS got so popular. COD standardized it. ADS is where the skill should come from, and if everyone hipfires, it changes the complete flow of the game. So that'll be an interesting one. I hope they nerf it and tone it down. Then I've put, make stim unusable if you are unhurt. This is my final point here, guys. There's probably many more, but I've forgot them or didn't quite think of them. And this is kind of a mild one. Stim is something you use to heal, which can be really, really useful, but as it stands, you can stim yourself when you're fully healed. So you can waste it by pressing it by accident, and I lost 2 gunfights in the beta by accidentally pressing my mouse because I was panicking, and it was quite a heated, turning on somebody who was shooting at me from behind, and as I did like a swipe with my mouse, I accidentally stimmed, and I ruined all hope of me winning the gunfight. I would have probably already lost that gunfight, but it would be really nice if I couldn't stab myself with a giant needle when I'm completely healed, because all it does is allow for ruining a tactical, basically. You're wasting a tactical, and this won't be the end of the world if it keeps it in the game. It'll just teach people to be more disciplined, I guess, but I feel like one of the ways to tell whether or not you're injured or not is that it doesn't use it. If it doesn't use it, you're fine, It seems like a good piece of visual language to tell a player that you're okay. And there it was, guys. The complete list of the grievances that I came up with. I don't know what lies in store for this game, but I think regardless of if you agree or disagree with me, the one fundamental truth is that it needs work, and that we're all very excited to see it become a better game. Everybody wants this COD to do well. I love Call of Duty. I've not been with this series for a very long time because I just didn't care for the direction it was taking, and I got burnt out, but a lot of that has gone away, and I would really love this to be the game that brings me back, but I'm just not sure it will. And hopefully with a couple of tweaks, maybe some that are on this list, it will be the experience that I'm looking for, and the experience that you're looking for too. But feel free to share what you would like to be changed in the comments, guys. Let's make this a discussion rather than an argument, because I know there's going to be some vastly different opinions, but opinions are awesome. That's why it's good to have discourse. But opinions that involve insults and ad hominems are just a surefire symbol that you're a cunt. And nobody likes cunts. But thank you for watching, and you take care now.